should be the one that's changing like the question. Like everybody
you can do it yourself, and if there's a problem, I'll be just here. So well.
Because here we have
Sure. Let's just try. Let's try. All of you will be on the stage? But if we might put it back, you can do it like this. So.
Okay. The thing is that our idea was to have someone meet, like for example, here or somewhere, like, and then they were like, and then the rest is like typical thing from our tourists who were like kind of, they will be standing here.
Perfect. Okay, so maybe we'll put the camera back so we saw it.
Okay.
I'll keep it down here. It's sort of because we're streaming it, so there's always a.
Sí, sí, sí.
Vale, espera,
Viktora jsem, ten mobil si prostě tady vezme.
Sí, passes.
And then, yeah, then you have to, and then see if you click like this. Oh, it works. Okay. And backwards it's like this.
There are a lot of like images without the see.
Just push this, and this.
Do you want to look at this here for a later, or
Okay. No.
I will tell you 5 minutes before.
You will do it intensely at 5 minutes before.
5 minutes before.
I think I'll manage, but you never know. In the spur of the moment.
You want to add a few sentences to what will not be.
Děsí ta věc, že se snaží držet pod ní dál.
Jakože nechtějí být
Ale nejsem.
Já se bojím, že to přijde.
Já si to nakonec teda udělal tak, prostě je kanál a na něm jakoby je ten screen a vždycky se ukáže ten aktuální bez ohledu na adresu. Zajímavé. To problém, že se omlouvám, že se těším.
To je v pohodě, ale jako když to řekneš, tak si to nerozumím moc, ale určitě to
because I found it amazing that as a video, core. Because you could share, yeah, exactly. Oh no!
Maybe we should have done
Or like, I can send it on like, yeah, the best to connect what would be the
information. So we can put science in.
Okay then, so hello again everybody. So we have an afternoon with six different communications, six different presentations. And as you will notice, the different presentations are sometimes by academics and sometimes by people involved in the performances or in the organization of festivals. So this balance answers the words of the organizers of this conference in the morning, who told us the importance of sharing different visions on rituals. So we will have three presentations in a row, and then a coffee break, and then the three last presentations. And we will have a discussion at the end, as we had this morning. The first speaker is Daniel Hansson, who is a conductor, conductor of the University Ensemble in Malmö, in Sweden, the Malmö Akademiska Kör. And he will speak about Luciateg in Malmö in COVID times. So how did you face this episode? Please, the floor is yours, Daniel.
Thank you.
the piano is yours.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So thank you so much. I will speak about a Swedish music tradition called Lucia, and I will start off by actually playing how that sounds. More or less the song. This is the Saint Lucia song, which is always starting every procession of Lucia when she enters and when she leaves. Let's see, my name is Daniel Hansson. I'm a conductor. I'm not a researcher within the fields of your knowledge and expertise. But I'm humbled by the opportunity to be here and to talk about a small piece of ritual which we are upholding in Sweden called Lucia tåg. Tåg is a Swedish word for procession. It's a, I don't know the full picture.
It's not the full one.
Before I get into the COVID experience through this ritual, I will talk briefly about the tradition in general. It's fine. It's based on some different traditions that have emerged into one. The first of them is the legend about Saint Stephanus, the Catholic saint Stephanus, that in Sweden during the Middle Ages were interpreted as someone else, partially because of misunderstanding. But they moved him from being dead 35 after Christ until being present during the first star. So the story in the Swedish folklore tradition about Stephanus is that he was a stable boy and he saw the star rising and also was the first one to tell King Herod of the new king to be born, which came out badly, as you all know. This evolved into a tradition of riding, a big spectacle when young men rode out in the countryside, singing songs, bringing a star on a pole, going from each house on the countryside and singing specific songs about the star, about Herod, and so on and so forth, demanding beer and vodka and food in exchange. And it all actually escalated into what more or less became a problem for everyone. So the church banned this tradition, even though it kept on going. There is, of course, Santa Lucia, the Italian saint from Sicily. But her faith has very little to do with the Swedish version of it all. Scientists point to a much earlier, a pre-Christian pagan goddess, a light bringer as well, who then combined with the knowledge about Saint Lucia and got the name Lucia. So there is traces of the Catholic saint, and it's in modern time been attached to this character in the Lucia frame, of course. In the folklore, there is a lot of aspects to this holiday. One of them is the actual day, the 13th of December, was in the Julian calendar the darkest night of the year. It then transformed with the Gregorian calendar to the 22nd, I think. But then it was already too late, because then the 13th was already the darkest night of the year. And not only dark, also full of magical creatures, dangers, and darkness. As you might know in Scandinavia, darkness is a very present experience during December. Some parts of our country do not see sun during December. So the idea of a light-bringing goddess coming to you on the darkest night, in the most dangerous night, was very attractive, and it gave spur to a lot of local traditions. Folkloristic traditions with people dressing up and like the goddess and bringing light, often light in the hair. They attached candles to their hair. Let's see. How do I change it? I'm sorry, just so yes, here are some. Okay, now. So, where were I?
Candles.
The candles. So they brought food and drink and song in different variations. And this was a rural tradition. It evolved in different locations, but in the 1920s, before we go into the modern period, let's listen to a short song, a medieval melody actually, that talks about King Herod and Saint Stephanus, which, as I mentioned before, is slightly a misunderstanding. So, and as I said about Lucia, this was a character coming to people on the countryside in finer houses. It looked differently, but this is a painting from 1848. About this time it moved slightly from the rural areas into the cities and became, as many other Christian traditions, or Christmas traditions around this time, a part of something new. And at this time it was also quite common for men to dress up as Saint Lucia. And there is a trans aspect of this very early in this tradition that later on disappeared, actually. It's documented and photographed, but in the 1920s, for the first time, there is an initiative that is nationwide. It's one of the newspapers in Stockholm who decides to start to celebrate Lucia, and you could vote for a candidate to be the Swedish Lucia for everyone to see, like a figure. It was a beauty pageant, more or less. This stabilizes the idea of Lucia being only for women, and all the trans aspects of the former tradition disappears. And we get into a time of modern influences that brings us to today, actually. There are the musical aspect. Around this time, also the Swedish choral tradition is evolved, and it fits very well into the tradition of having a singing greeting with Lucia at the center. We today have Lucia singing in all sorts of versions and shapes. It's very common for small children to do this at school, of course. There are choirs, as Meyer Choir at the university. This is a picture of our group singing at the Swedish embassy in Copenhagen, actually, for all the diplomats in Copenhagen. Good choirs, qualified singers, do this as well and sing roughly the same songs, maybe with more parts and more advanced arrangements. But it's very well connected to the celebration around Christmas. Besides Advent and Christmas itself, I would say that Lucia is one of the most celebrated parts of Swedish Christmas tradition. When we stood in for doing the Christmas celebrations for this group, and the pandemic struck us, we were challenged, of course, with the actual pandemic, which was a big problem. In Sweden, however, we did not ever have lockdowns, as many other countries experienced. The society kept open, but there were limitations all through this period. We had, for instance, a ban on gathering people, more than 8 people, for instance. That struck us in December. So our choir got together, or parts of the choir, to discuss how to keep the tradition of bringing song and light to people during December, amidst a pandemic, alive. Many choirs did recordings and small videos and posted them on Facebook. And as our Joost told me about doing social media interaction with stories and so on, we didn't feel like going that path, because we wanted to first explore what were the actual values in doing this tradition at all. We stopped for a while and not doing what we always did. We discussed what is the values of this ritual. The first value, as we saw, is the arrival. Because everyone who's ever been to a Lucia procession knows that you gather pretty much like this. This, I'm just speaking like a normal situation. You get coffee, you get some cakes which are specially made for this season, a bun spiced with saffron, with raisins in it, and you have gingerbread, and you wait, and suddenly you hear something afar. And that's the song I introduced you to in the beginning. You're supposed to hear it coming to you. It's like the arrival of the Lucia train is one of the key events. Lucia enters and there is light in this dark room. And you enjoy some song, of course. There are several songs that depict all sorts of aspects of this tradition. Of course, Staffan is there, sometimes in like pointy hats, unfortunately quite similar to other organizations, but with no face covered. Our choir have abandoned this tradition and instead designed a Lucia outfit which is based upon old linen cloths from the 16th century and made a more adult version of the Lucia outfit, which traditionally is just white with a red ribbon around your waist, symbolizing martyrdom. Candles in your hand and candles on the head, only for Lucia. So there are some, the Staffan is still there in this train without horses this time, and you sing his song about the star and about Herod and so on. And there are the maids of Lucia, the virgins that accompany her singing together with Lucia. So there is this little time for singing. It then passes to the period, and also some reading of lyrics, and then they go away. So what's most important? Of course, the song. But the length of this program were not the real issue. It was it coming and going. And when it goes away singing, indicating that it's on its way to someone else. So there is a sharing aspect of a Lucia train, which is very important, because you know the fact that someone is heading out. So we brainstormed a little bit about this. And in Sweden and in Malmö, as in many other cities, there are challenges, absolutely, with a new device called electric scooter, which you rent by the minute. Are you familiar with this? You stumble over them everywhere. But anyway, we try our version that we actually, because we don't stand in the center of the city and sing and gathering people, because that would be a criminal thing to do. So we need to move, but we can't move in a way that people can follow us, because then we would actually be gathering people in an even worse way. So someone came up with the idea to actually use electrical scooters. And we just dressed up the same way as we see in this picture, and we tried it out once. And from a musical point of view, it was challenging. We had to choose repertoire that could work if you're hoovering around. And so the Lucia Day came, and we found out that the intentions in this construction actually worked. People got the notion of something coming, and being surprised just to hear an actual voice singing gave people the deepest emotional feeling. People cried a lot when they saw this. And for like 10 or 12 seconds, they were experiencing the live song, and then they were seeing the Lucia train going further and to visit someone else, or pass someone else. So we did a kind of in perpetuum mobile Lucia version, where we hoovered around the city and people could experience live song. I think that the challenge is, of course, as you all have mentioned, when you transit from the live situation to the digital version. Something is lost, something is gained, absolutely, but from a musical point of view, there is something with the actual vocal cords from a person vibrating and sending through the air actual sound to a person's ear and the drums of the ear, and you can hear the song. It's an unbroken connection that goes from one person to another, not through like stereo speakers or headphones. It's physical. It's actually physical, because that feeling is not only the hearing, it's how you take in music in general. And also the fact that you're giving something and you're receiving the reaction. This is one of the largest challenges when doing music digitally. You can play exactly as beautiful, as advanced, and as technically fantastic as you do in a live performance, but you can never get the direct feedback from a person who's actually listening to you right now. A little bit like we are doing now. We're talking together, and I'm getting nice nods, not the Zoom nods. We are like actually sharing this. This will always be the biggest problem when it comes to transition into digital media. So we have to do something else when we do this. this. And I was very inspired by the Burned Man and the other examples on how you transit into something, but we always need to ask, what's the value in what we are doing and why we are doing it? Some short about that. Here is a little video that actually gives you a notion on how we did that performance. So, Malmö University Choir was the ones singing, and you can continue listening because I bring as a gift to all of you a CD with our Lucia songs, which you can find down there. It's very easy to find. It says Lucia on the front of it. And it's a gift, so please take it. On that CD is also a contemporary folk music group who does some interpretations of the theme surrounding Lucia. So it's and it's all in Swedish. Please enjoy. Thank you so much for listening. I think I've had my time.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for this. So now we will call to the floor Nicolas Jourbet, who is an initiator of a replacement event for the Basel Fastnacht, and who is also an author of a cinema documentary called Ishtu Gets Ready for the Carnival of Basel. And he comes from Basel, Switzerland. So, Nicolas?
So, I want to get some technical instruction. I'm a technical person.
No problem.
I'm a cinematographer and I'm not used to speak so much. Normally the actors do the lines, the director is shouting, and I hit the button and the machine is running. So I try to do the same thing here, but I think it will be good. You should have to.
No, I can hit the button, yes.
You can't do it. Okay. Should I? No, I don't want to. Where I have to go? On the panel.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it's only short. I want to say some introducing word and not to be the time bandit of this event because the movie already 22 minutes. It is composed from the material of a real carnival, the last one. Now the carnival I shot for the documentary movie, the feature-length one, where you can find the DVD down there that tells about the whole world behind the carnival, from one carnival to the other one, let's say the arc of 1 year. And the other thing, I was happy to find some impressions about the strange Carnival 21, not Carnival 20. I don't have material. I plugged in some photos we did for an exhibition for this replacement event for the 21. that was more a documentary about all the craft men and craft women behind the scene. They work for the carnival, and they work for 9 months, 8 months, 10 months, it depends a little bit. But the idea of the clip, what they want to do, yeah, the painters of Balatan, mask maker, costume designer, a lot of people are involved, and they don't have no income, so it was a little bit a social problem also. I think now it seemed to be resolved. Swiss state is very complicated with social things, as you know maybe, but I think I will roll it and you see the pictures, and then maybe we can later during the coffee break, we can chat a little bit. Okay, and thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure. It's a little bit strange. Oh, you put it away. Oh, you're great. So we can also follow, then you have to, but I have to. Enjoy it. That's a beautiful version of Carnival. Everyone locked in one window.
Thank you very much, Nicola, for the film. Thank you. And so, next speakers are Olga Czeslarova and Jana Tiner from Charles University here in Prague and Universität Basel. And they will carry on with the same example of the Fastnacht in Basel, but focusing on the Fastnacht carnival. So, is that true? Yeah. This is good. Okay. Fastnacht, so the transformation of the Fastnacht during Corona times.
Exactly, this word, thank you. The word Fastnacht started with media, first of all, to describe the special time of Carnival during the Corona. Nicht means now, no in German, so Fastnacht, like Fastnacht is the normal name, Fastnacht was used to describe this Carnival. It's actually 12 years ago since I fell in love with Carnival in Basel, Carnival of Basel, Fastnacht. And since then I'm doing my research and I'm just observing and participating. And since 10 years together with Martin, we founded a kind of Basel Carnival in Prague, the Velvet Carnival. Martin will talk about it tomorrow. And this year I invited the students of religious studies in Basel to do a field research with me. So Jana Tiner was doing everything, but she couldn't come for the last moment because of some Corona problems. It changed last week, so she couldn't arrive. So I'm greeting her from here, and we will hear her voice later. So, thank you, Nicholas, again for this great film. So it makes perfect introduction as well, picture and film introduction for my presentation. I just would like to mention that Basel Fastnacht has its roots in medieval carnival tradition, but in the 19th century, two formerly parallel elements created a unique synthesis. the carnival street satire, and the military march music and marching. Until today, this synthesis gives to the festivity a special character of solemn carnivalness. In Basel, you will never see participants dancing, singing, or acting drunk, which is certainly related to the Calvinist background. As we have seen, all actions start at exactly 4 o'clock on Monday morning at Morgenstern with the switching of all the street lights. And the musical carnival carpet, as I call it, lasts for 72 hours until Thursday morning, the Endstreich. The highlight of the program is the satirical parade, the so-called cortege, which takes place on Monday and Wednesday afternoon. When cliques, the leisure groups organized around making music together, some of them had their roots already in the 19th century, present satirical topics with lantern, mask, costumes, and distributing satirical leaflets. They play piccolos and drums, which is the classical folklore as you have seen. But there are also other groups like brass bands and some vehicles with baggies contacting people and storing food. 10,000 spectators watch the parade, mostly from Basel. Everything is written in local dialect, but there are also many Swiss and international tourists. However, after this official part, the groups continue uncoordinated march, guestless through the city, streets until the early hours of the morning. Although Christopher Bergen said in the film that everything comes into being on its own, the coordinated role of Fastnachtskomitee is significant. The originally male, now gender mixed group was founded in 1911 and has been such a guarantor of the rules and direction of Fastnacht, which was markable as well during the Corona. I would like to mention 4 aspects, maybe it's as well as the topic of what is actually the value of Fastnacht, as Daniel was talking about. It is the satirical reflection on current social and political issues that is made by all social classes that makes Fastnacht a ritual of democracy, where the civil society presents its critique to the establishment. Thanks to its artistic treatment and humor, it contributes to the interest in public affairs. The range is from very simple criticism to very elaborate satire. Important is the social level intensified around making and playing music together. Groups have many social activities during the year, involve children and pass the tradition. Music, originally militaristic marches, are now enriched with modern rhythms and melodies. Since the second half of the 20th century, there are as well the brass bands. Important is that during Fastnacht, the groups always march, everyone in the same rhythm, about 20-30 minutes, then take a break, and then continue marching. They spend like this many hours on days and nights, and these marching masks bring the participants into an interesting state of calm trance and creates a kind of 3-day meditation of the city. Every part of Fastnacht is structured. There are many unwritten but sacrosanct rules, how these are organized, how you can participate, how you must look like, how the form of satirical topic is given, and more. In Basel, it is the form that enables the creativity. We were expecting that the huge amount of creativity that is associated with Fastnacht every year would spill over into other creative ways. That many small activities and performances in public space would happen, improvisation with traditional elements and rules. And we expected as well that the Fastnachtlers, as the participants call themselves, would use their ability to reflect on the present in a satirical way, and this would be evident during the Fastnacht, as it is said to be the core of Fastnacht. From December it was clear Fastnacht would not take place, even in the reduced form, and 10 days before Fastnacht, the city management and the Fastnachtskomitee appealed again to Fastnachters to give up all Fastnacht activities and have declared a ban on gatherings over 5 people. Ban on playing piccolos as wind instruments has been declared for a long time ago. 2 days before the start of Fastnacht, I interviewed Pia Engelbitzin, the head of Fastnachtskomitee, and she said, I would prefer that the bans were stricter so that it is clear what can and cannot be done. I fear that there will be many events and activities that will not comply with Corona rules. And after all, drumming is not banned. So there was a great general expectation that there would be a lot going on the streets. What was surprising in the end was that of those 20,000 active participants, active means walking in the masks for the 3 days, only a very small part attempted any action or reaction. This surprised both us and as well the participants themselves. If they went on the street, they just walked around, mostly drank a beer they had brought with them, and stood on the streets. They often said, "We came to see what creative things the others would do," and they were disappointed that the others weren't doing anything either. Perhaps it is not possible to expect big innovative expressions on a large scale, which does not mean that the innovations on a smaller scale will not have an important impact. And some actions and some very interesting happenings, things happen, although really not many. But just to see what happened, and some of them we have already seen are really interesting. So this will Jana talk about. Where? No, she's not. Thank you, Jana, and many greetings to Switzerland. Okay, just to conclude, so there was something happening, but not so much as we were expecting. So there were really some nice performances and happenings, but if you imagine the huge scale of people who normally participate, it was surprisingly not so much. So I just wanted to say, for me, the satire that is normally performative happens in the streets, disappeared. There was no revolt, or almost no revolt, no performing of the current situation, this use of satirical race, except with some exceptions as we have seen before. The social level was okay, meeting, talking, drinking, or walking in civil. The music that filled the street during Fastnacht actually disappeared, with some exceptions, and the rules, the framework was lost. So we expected action on the street. However, the carnival basically evacuated from the streets and spread out on the outskirts, on the facades, windows and balconies of houses, behind the windows of shops and restaurants, which I will speak about later. Yeah. As the established Fastnacht pattern crumbled, the organizers and the participating groups organically turned to another framework, to a kind of museum exhibition. They actually transferred the whole city into a museum, and were very creative in this new framework. One must understand that for the Baslers, museums, exhibitions, and the artwork concerned is a very important part of their identity. Basel has a surprisingly large number of art galleries and museums given its relative size. People are well informed about the specific pieces of artwork, which was often depicted as commonly acknowledged visual symbols in the pre-COVID Fastnacht procession as lantern motifs. Therefore, it was only understandable that the museum exhibition framework replaced the missing Fastnacht framework. Partly, it was organized by Fastnacht's committee. There you can see the spot where normally they stay and greet the cliques passing in cortege, but not at all many cliques and other providers participated in this way. So let's see. The most important part was the Spaziergang, Fastnacht-Spaziergang, such a walk, so that had about 30 stops and led through the whole area where Fastnacht traditionally takes place. At each stop there was a sign representing a segment of this tradition accompanied with QR code. This allowed visitors to listen to traditional music and description of the history and customs associated with the place. It was said the aim of the Fastnacht Spaziergang is to bring the Fastnacht atmosphere to the city in times of emptiness and to show that the tradition lives on. A few days before the start of Fastnacht, the catalogue was distributed, a colored newspaper that was part of local daily newspapers, basically under the slogan, "Be nice, stay home, display some masks at home, have a mehlsuppe, a traditional food, and read about the history of Fastnacht." As we have seen already, in the square in front of the cathedral, where traditionally a lantern exhibition takes place, was an installation remembering the tombstones. In the official media was written, the lantern cubes, which consist of old lantern signs, are illuminated in the evening and symbolically stand for the preservation of the Fastnacht tradition. Storefronts have become the central expression of Fastnacht. Stores and restaurants displayed masks from previous years or other Fastnacht props. This is usually the case at classical Fastnacht, but this year in much greater and larger number. Also, a large number of facades had Fastnacht decorations, like masks and costumes sitting on the curbs and windows or behind the windows. Many shops' windows around the Remmelingplatz joined together in a project Stadtfastnacht with Nicolas Joret was organizing of animated storefronts, so-called lebende Schaufenster. A paper made the lantern behind the window, a piccolo player and a drummer behind the window, and so on. Another shop windows was set up as a studio, others, as you have seen in the film, displayed photographs of people of various professions involved in the Fastnacht, like painter, mask makers, singers, drum maker, and so on. As always, with QR codes and with interesting interviews next to the photographs. As we have seen in the film as well, the Museum of Kulturen, where the small permanent Fastnacht exhibition takes place, took the masks out of the exhibit and displayed them in the window facing the street, illuminated at night. Very special thing was in the Hotel Basel in the downtown, an installation behind a large window. Tables, dishes, candles, mannequins dressed in costumes and masks on the chairs. At some point, some of them made very small gestures to the audience outside the window, like waving or raising hand and so on. Some ateliers Atelier Charivari approached sculptures and the public to paint and decorate simple mats, which were then displayed behind another window and could be auctioned. Something another people did with drums. Tram driver, he said, I see many people standing at the tram stop with sad faces. I want to put a smile under their masks, bring them Fastnacht in the Fastnachtless time. In 2011, when I was in Basel for the first time, I was surprised that they did not have a proper Fastnacht museum. Dominic Wunderling, the curator of the small exhibition, told me, I'm sure we have been talking about establishing a museum for 30 years, but we never take the next step. It would be too difficult. Over 300 new scenes are created every year, so what to exhibit? Is it because the festival was so lively that it did not give time, space or energy to a museum? Due to the pandemic, Fastnacht could not be held in this traditional form, and therefore the first Museum of Fastnacht was created. And at the end of my presentation, I would like to introduce one more perspective that Martin and I have been discussing recently. The word Fastnacht also points to a doubt or consideration that was also often mentioned by the participants. Has Fastnacht taken place or not? Can Carnival be banned? We think the real Carnival has taken place, but it happened untypically, and actually it happened very performatively. The standardized Fastnacht model creates a clear barrier between the actors, masked Fastnachters, and the audience, visitors, tourists, who observe the groups. This happens either during the cortege, where people line the main street on which the groups are promenading, or during the other parts. In any case, the Fastnacht groups always occupy the center stage, the street, and the audience is on the side. The Fastnachters are the ones hidden, the audience are simultaneously exposed. Normally, it is the audience sitting in various cafe windows and observing the parading mass groups. The gaze is directed from margins to the center. However, during Fastnacht, this completely changed. Masks and audience exchanged their roles, the direction was inverted. Masks were the ones occupying shops and cafe windows, houses staring down at the throngs of people, many of them Fastnachters, as they were walking up and down the streets, often at odds with what actually they should do, as there was no template. We have seen the tram filled with masked figures as passengers. Nothing moved. People were caught unaware, blankly staring into the motionless carriages whose doors would not open to them. It is as if they bought tickets to a theatre show, eagerly awaiting the performance. But once they arrived, they would be introduced to the scene with the auditorium filled with motionless actors, intently watching them and waiting for their performance. However, this created a great deal of uneasiness. They were being watched, as usual, but without the protective shield of masks. They were being watched by what, in pre-COVID times, would be themselves, masks. Fastnacht revived a reflexive dynamic. Fastnachters were confronted with the fact that, for the most part, they did not do anything. However, precisely through not doing and the ensuing frustration, the carnival form achieved something very carnivalesque, but what often remains in the background, a kind of genuine reflection. Thank you.
And Jana. So now, according to the schedule, we have a half an hour coffee break for informal discussion and more. And I invite you to come back at 4:45 for the next session, the second session in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Develops beyond just hearing the frequency of the notes. Acoustic phenomena surrounding speech and song evolves into physical resonance, actually. The voice and the acoustic phenomena appears whilst you're doing it. I think it's possible to put in more evidence, but it's very clear when you
Okay, yeah, sure.
Faculty is also European anthropology, or
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we will begin again. We will start again the second session of this afternoon, please. So I call Judith Balatonyi from the University of Pécs in Hungary, who will speak about weddings, another sort of ritual, and how the weddings in Hungary were affected by the pandemic. Yes, please, take the floor.
Thank you so much.
So we met again. We meet again after 10 years. So you please,
Okay,
your turn.
thank you so much. International sociological research based on demographic data has shown that the COVID pandemic significantly shaped the way of getting married. According to this research, varying from minimal to dramatic, there was a decrease in marriage rates worldwide. The decline in marriage rates has mainly been explained by restrictive government policies. In addition, the stress caused by the pandemic has saved to threaten romantic relationships. Economic instability and specific health problems have also mentioned. In other words, social scientific publication and the popular press also highlighted that the changed socio-economic circumstances have led most people to cancel their planned weddings. The marriage rates in Hungary showed a different picture. In Eastern Europe, among the Visegrad countries, it was only in Hungary that the desire to wed did not diminish during the 3 waves of the pandemic. Although the Hungarian government introduced various restrictions during the pandemic, for instance, the number of attendees at the official wedding ceremony was limited to close relatives. In some period, wedding receptions were regulated or even banned. The number of weddings increased by 3%. It can also be seen that the number of marriages per month of the pandemic tended to decrease during the periods of several restrictions and lockdowns, and to increase during periods of temporary loosenings. While the period of restriction was characterized by the civil ceremonies and mini weddings, the period of loosening, the restrictions saw a mixture of large and tiny weddings, with or without civil marriages. So people did not postpone or proceed with their weddings, but tried to stick to their original plans despite, or rather beside the changed circumstances of abandoning certain expectations, inviting new ones, they rescheduled their weddings. For the analyzing the reason for postponed and cancelled marriage shows to important social correlation, due to their numerical and social significance, I also find important to explore the motivation and practices of rescheduling a wedding in the time of pandemic. This issue seems particularly important in the view of continuing rise in the wedding rate in Hungary, which is not in line with global trends. Based on my digital anthropological research starting from the very beginning of the pandemic online survey answered by 500 brides in deep interview, digital anthropology of Facebook groups and dedicated to wedding organizing, this paper raises questions about the extent why some people got married
during the lockdown period, or why did others postpone their weddings until after the restrictions were loosened? How, according to what patterns, with what expectation and needs have the cultural actors adapted their wedding plans? What aspect have they given up? How have the innovative, modified wedding practices adapted the newer circumstances? I analyzed the way of selecting and constituting the wedding tradition, bricolage of tradition. First, let's take a look at the motivations for proceeding and less scheduling weddings under COVID. It is important to highlight that there are several structural and individual motivation factors behind the propensity of the Hungarians for pandemic marriage. First, I should mention an important structural factors, family policy measures introduced in 2019 by the government, loan with favorable interest rates, which is conditional on marriage and childbearing, and has had a clear positive impact on the increase in marriage. However, the motivation to obtain a loan was not a sufficient reason in itself, but was associated with other motivations such as romantic love, the desire to get married, or even the desire to organize a wedding or a festive event. Besides the complex motivation, emotions, and social proprieties, the process of planning and replanning a wedding also influenced by the meaning constitutive tradition is a notion of sociologist Neil Ross, and the wedding fashion communicated by wedding service providers, close family members, and friends of the couples planning to wed. Contemporary wedding fashion has arrived on Pinterest and in various Facebook groups, wedding planning courses, webinar, and workshops for brides, and has changed focus and direction several times during the epidemic. Possible patterns, decorations, scenarios, and ideologies of mini-wedding, minimalism, elopement weddings, green and sustainable weddings, and piecemeal weddings, wedding broken up into their constituent parts and held in different days as several events have also emerged. Referring to the wedding tradition in circulation, the number of wedding guests, the most important rituals, customs, etc., have been defined and redefined in multiple ways. During the COVID period, the marrying couples acting as bricoleurs pieced together this variation, motivation, and different types of information to create their own wedding rituals. They have tried to circumvent possible restrictions, government measures that limit or make impossible real celebration, to make their own wedding a livable, acceptable, real rite. Brides actively sought information not only on structural constraints and regulation, but also tried to gain as much knowledge as possible about the fashionable and traditional aspect of contemporary weddings. On online surveys, brides often inquire about contemporary possibilities as meaning of getting married. In the meantime, questions about both general and special norms and rules related to getting married will rise several times, as well as about how this could be met and implemented at the time of COVID. The brides were especially interested in the rules and guidelines related to getting married. Who adheres to these rules? Why and in what way can they do it? Thus, with the help of intensive information gatherings, brides essentially sought to find new options and evaluate them individually and communally. They try to actively seek, recognize, and create these possibilities, while at the same time they began to look for ways of challenging the restrictions. The main options were one, postponing the wedding and rescheduling it for after the restrictions were loosened. Two, minimizing the weddings. Three, scheduling official wedding ceremonies and reception the big day on different day. Let us look at these strategies one by one. Based on my 2020 questionnaire, had interviews on the decision of brides who were planning or replanning wedding at the time of COVID. The majority who were not satisfied with available smaller lockdown weddings and therefore postponed the wedding reception or the civil ceremony along with the reception, or those who simply waited were mainly trying to stick to their original plans. Those who plan to the idea of the big wedding feast, so it is a celebration with friends and family that would have been meaningless to them in the context of narrower, more puritanical, service-free civil weddings. The true traditional rite of passage would not have taken place. Many of the marriage planners and pre-planners insisted on big weddings, big family celebration, spectacular rites and ceremonies, and at the same time rejected puritanical, guestless, simplified civil ceremonies because they thought the former was traditional and therefore normative. They considered it to be a legitimate model they tried to conform to because it used to be that way. Referring to the traditional large-scale weddings as a model, as proved to be a narrative strategy during COVID that could be used to argue in favor of earlier pre-restriction weddings and or of one's own ideas. Some online petitions for holding wedding reception refer to the customary order of weddings in thousands of comments, namely that in fact the wedding reception is an essential traditional part of getting married. Now let's see the strategies of those who did not postpone their weddings but transform them, minimize the rite or split them up. According to the result of my research, primarily, those people held their COVID wedding during the quarantine periods and or thus separately from the wedding reception, who needed the paper as soon as possible because to expect a child or to an already planned loan. Many others simply did not want to wait any longer. They did not want to postpone the long-planned wedding. For them, the puritanical wedding was just fine, as it was all about them, and this was what was important to them. Some also point out that under COVID, this was what weddings look like or have become. Moreover, based on family recollection, the experiences of other and personal convictions, they try to convince themselves that small weddings, the micro weddings, could also be the real, or that in the recent past, for example, during and after the two wars, before the period of socialism, this is precisely what wedding tradition must have been like. At other times, such as small personal weddings was the couple's real preference, and they took advantage of the regulations to organize such a ceremony. It often happened that in such cases the couples used the restriction imposed by the pandemic to justify their own ideas that different from the expectation of the community or the family. The restriction came in handy for those couples who did not want to have a much hoopla at their wedding, who did not want to be the center of attention, who did not want to partake of various wedding games representing sexuality, patriarchal gender roles expected by the society, by the wedding guests or the family. Rather, they have always wished for a small, intimate and personalized wedding. And true that because of the distinction, they could easily accomplish this. The small weddings also being given their own names, such as mini, micro, mini COVID lockdown weddings. In the case of the mini weddings, couples got married at City Hall, or in the church ceremony in front of two witnesses or their immediate families, without a wedding reception, without wedding providers and services. This type of wedding typically was scheduled on weekdays instead of the weekend. In the most cases, civil and religious ceremonies were audiovisually documented, photographed, videotaped, or broadcast live in some form via Zoom, closed Facebook groups, YouTube, Vimeo, etc. The only service provider that the micro-wedding organizer tried to insist is always the photographer. The day of actually getting married, thus continued with just a couple or with the intimate circle of the family or friends and the neighbors, accompanied by friendly conversation and small refreshment. At the same time, the newly married couple also tried to carry out some of the ritual-like elements of traditional wedding receptions. For example, the first dance as a married couple even on the balcony of the apartment in the housing estate, or the ritual joint cutting of the cake and its consumption. These simple, small attendance mini-weddings were supplemented by large-scale, real weddings after the loosening of restrictions. In this case, we can speak of wedding rites separated in space, time, and function. Thus, who were thinking not only of a formal mini-wedding, but also big wedding later, wanted to ensure a real festive, communal family friendship experience of the wedding for the second time, and thereby meet various family and social expectations. Another important aspect of the organization was to ensure that this second wedding would also be a rite of passage, for example, by trivializing the first formal one, but not wearing rings after the first wedding ceremony, or by introducing other wedding rites for the second wedding day. They celebrate either with a church wedding or with another rite. Confirmation ceremony celebrated by the so-called marriage ceremony leader. The early smaller two witness civil ceremonies and the accompanying big days at later dates are not the product of the innovation during COVID, but have been part of Hungarian marriage practices for several years. However, under COVID, their popularity has increased significantly, and their previous sporadic occurrence has become a trend. Hungarian confirmation ceremonies are a specific subtype of commitment ceremonies practiced internationally in the case of unregistered, unofficial wedding ceremonies. We have relatively little ethnographic data on this. Contemporary anthropological research has primarily written about the phenomenon in connection with certain minority groups, such as European, British Muslim, as cases of unregistered, unofficial marriages, and as alternative forms of wedding for Western LGBTQ marriages. In Hungary, couples choose such piecemeal weddings with a confirmation ceremony added as an extra to the formal act of getting married for several reasons. One is that if all components are held on the same day, even become too congested. Another reason may be extravagance or the extraordinary nature of the wedding venue and date. And finally, they may choose it because there are some other family economic circumstances that precipitate the need for completing the legal act of getting married, but they wish to celebrate properly at a later date. So this practice were perfectly integrated into the world of quarantine weddings. So we could see that the reaction of couples for the pandemic were diverse. By some people were swimming with the tide, others were rather swimming against it. That is, they were trying to manage and carry out, modify or suspend their wedding ideas by maneuvering between social structures or manipulating rules. Besides many other things, there was a common element in these tragedies and practices. Social actors aim to adapt, interpret, and transfer old, traditional, and brand new wedding patterns that derive in domestic and international personal and family examples. Weddings have been postponed to preserve the practice of traditional pre-COVID weddings. Traditional weddings have been minimized, creating the international and national type of lockdown micro-weddings, and the trend for separated early official wedding ceremony and larger wedding reception with confirmation ceremonies, which have become popular in recent years, has been reinforced. In my view, the differences that can be observed in Hungarian wedding practices are the result of the context created by social policies that supported getting married prior to the pandemic and related individual decisions. The other important reasons for the increase in the wedding rate in Hungary is precisely the fact that the people getting married dare to break the former wedding rules and create new rules in connection with wedding planning in accordance with their motivations and expectations. To do this, they had at their disposal several adaptable patterns and a well-established way of getting ceremonies. Sustainable, smaller, more personal weddings without many guests have become the norm, and with the help of these piecemeal weddings, they did not have to give up the large traditional weddings that followed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Judith, for this case study from Hungary. Now I would like to call Daniela Stavelova from the Czech Academy of Science. Yes, thank you very much. So you are one of our local hosts as a Czech researcher. So you will give a talk on music, dance and local festivities as a vehicle how to build public space and local identity. And as I have understood, you have based your research on ethnochoreology and ethnomusicology, and you will speak about festivities in urban spaces. Is it here in Prague?
Yes.
In Prague. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, the organizers, to inviting me to this interesting symposium and to have an opportunity to say something about my research and also to hear and see an exciting material in your presentation. I would like to present a project focusing on different types of carnival festivities in urban space, which have their origins in the culture of the pre-industrial rural society. Their present reinvented form, however, is shaped by the current needs of local communities. I'm presenting the ongoing research which started 10 years ago. It is based on observation of 3 Prague districts, Břevnov, Letná and Rostoky, where I'm investigating the process of rethinking the rural popular carnival in contemporary conditions and context. I'm interested in how events are modified by the current pressure of external influence and authorities which handle and adapt their content to current requirements. These include the negotiation of culture ownership, commodification, the process of hybridization, and other phenomena associated with representation and symbolic expression in the mirror of contemporary imagination. The research is based on the repeated qualitative research based on ethnographic data. The crucial starting point is the observation of the festivities by means of ethnocardiology and ethnomusicology, where the study of music and dance meanings contributes to understanding the implicit social relations of the local community that handles the cultural heritage or culture memory in terms of its needs. I will show a brief video clip. It is from 2018. Unfortunately, the video is in Czech, but I think that I have told everything important in my introductory speech. So this is a short video just to have a notion how it happens. So in this research, I'm investigating the role and meaning of popular carnivals in contemporary urban society that is manipulating elements of the so-called traditional culture for its needs. She uses the concept of carnivalist for the purpose of recent social conversation to distinguish and differentiate the hierarchy of the local society, or to make visible a particular status. The important thing is that the carnival happens in the public space, and in these three carnivals, we recognize that it is organized by institutions, needs a financial support, also a carnival need an occupation to have a permission to occupy the public space. The participation of the people is unlimited. There are some commercial stalls with refreshments, and there is a considerable spectacularity of masks. Yes, it's different kind of masks, and a mask is a ticket to the world of upside down. Some specific masks of the carnival of Stocky, you can see here. And an important thing is the concept of carnivals and the ritual language composed by the elements of inverted status, by the element of the fool or child. That is also an important element. Then food, sex symbols, sometimes also the violence, and of course satire. All these elements are used during the parades through the streets. These parades have a strong performativity. This is the Rostoki Carnival. Also in winter time, this is the parade in Břevnov, in the street, and this one is in Letná district. And of course, highlighted is the role of music and dance that makes the parade visible. There are huge music bands or soloists who are playing during these carnivals, and different kind of music. Sometimes some students from abroad are participating to these music bands. Some music bands are local and repeatedly participate to the carnival. And of course the dance. The dance is happening in the streets with also with children, and also inside in the park during the evening event. And of course, the important thing is food. This is mainly the local products, for example, in Břevnov, from local shops or restaurants. The food is traditional, a lot of meat, sometimes a lot of sweet, and sometimes soup. Kids are also involved to these parades, and they participate. They also get the mask, and they are an important element in this parade. These tools of conversations are also the way how to make the local community sustainable and inclusive. Their goal is to offer the new residents the place for a happy life with stable social relationships. Something specific happened in Rostoki, because the carnival in Rostoki happens both in two spheres, public and private. Carnival in public space is more focused on communication with the local authorities. In the private space, the carnival patrol of the individual selected houses happened in a different term, usually a day or a week before, sometimes also 2 weeks before, and it is focused more on the involvement of newly arrived citizens in common strategies. This is the group of people going for this procession across Rostock. Usually it's Friday evening, and you can see that the features are different, the masks are a little bit different, and in the private space, as you can see, the private sphere is less spectacular, less presentational, but more participatory. Music, and especially dance, has to involve the people more to share the common event. There is a lot of music, a lot of dance. There is also the remuneration in front of each house which is visited, and then the dance with the inhabitants of the house. The dance is very easy, and everybody is involved and quickly taught with the dance, and so everybody can participate very quickly and to be involved. So this is the main principal personality of this carnival. This is the king of the carnival, the reign of the carnival. And this woman was also the founder of the carnival. And what about the COVID year? In 2021, when it was allowed, when it was not allowed to hold a carnival in a public space due to pandemic restrictions, it took place here only in the private sphere. It took place as a conspiracy to fit into anti-pandemic measures, but at the same time to preserve some of its essential elements. For example, a tour of selected houses, a wish for prosperity to the houses and their inhabitants through a musical and dance performance which took place on the street in front of the house. And unlike previous years, there were many more satirical speeches commenting on the current situation. Several satirical songs were composed, some new masks or props tailored to the situation appeared. This band, COVID year, evoked a great deal of emotion and an even greater effort to maintain mutual communication, supported by the possibility of online agreement. However, the research for the possibility of a personal meeting still remained a key element, which, despite many restrictions, made the traditional patterns of carnival possible. This is mainly due to the basic principle of participation in any way. For example, manifested, by decorating houses or singing together in the open air of songs occasionally composed and distributed, texts were distributed online. So by the way of conclusion, the elements of the traditional carnival and their flexibility, as well as the ability to react quickly to a given situation, allow the development of common strategies in different circumstances. They are thus a tool for local communication and provide the possibility of community sustainability, even in crisis situations. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.
So the next and last presentation is not really a presentation, but more a performance. I call my friend Alessandro Testa, who is coming back from the field in Catalonia, and who will present the performance of our friends coming from Solsona in Catalonia. Yeah, so, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurent. very well. As you can see, there's been some change in perhaps in the attitude, because this will be a performance, or rather a presentation slash performance. I'm wearing the, let's call it uniform, it's called bata in Catalan, of the comparses, which are these groups that shape the local carnival festivity. So this is not something that one can choose to wear. Also, these badges are very hard to achieve and to obtain. I will tell you about this later if you're curious. And now you will see some of these people belonging to these different groups presenting the carnival, and also a few videos. And I don't know what else they have in their hat for us. Some rabbits will be pulled out. It's a very interesting carnival that was born as a reaction to Franco's repression against the Catalan culture, and therefore it is also very, I had to present a lot of things.
Well, welcome everyone. Yes, I can.
Donc, si vous
Well, now yes. Welcome everyone. As Alessandro said, we are a group representing Solsona's Carnival. Solsona is a town in the middle of the Catalan Pyrenees with less than 9,000 inhabitants, the capital of a large region. But we only have 15,000 inhabitants in the region. It's an important peasantry club and deeply rooted with the traditions. Despite its small population, in 1593, Solsona obtained the bishopric title due to this strategic location in the territory. This detail will condition the personality of Solsona's population, but it didn't stop the carnival from continuing. We don't know when this parent celebration was created, but there are many documents that prove the existence from before the bishopric, so before 1593. Considering the most important festival of our town, recovered in 1971 during Franco's dictatorship, being the first one to be recovered in the country, in Spain. Well, we don't know if you know this, but nowadays this is our main scandal. But we were here to talk about carnivals, culture. Why is our carnival so unique? This celebration is expected from the day it ends. The time when society, the local festival, the other local festivals, global events and public figures are mocked. So, all in all, we say per carnaval tot s'hi val, which means during carnival, everything is allowed. One of the features that has made it better known throughout all the territory are our giants, as you can see. Cesa and her sister are the third generation of the Caceres Bishop I workshop. Their grandfather created these giants, imitating the ones from the main festival, but were a little bit more crazy since they move their hands, hitting the people that are dancing around them. But, as Alessandro said, the most distinctive fact beyond giants is this one. All the ones that you see here around. No one dresses up. People are grouped in gangs and informal groups of people distinguished by these clothes that we call them bates. The groups with the same data are called comparsa. So from now on, if you hear comparsa, it's going to be the group. So these comparsas are vital for the party as they collaborate with the preparation of the events that take place during Carnival. This organization is supervised and coordinated by one big comparsa called La Junta. So, unlike most popular festivals, which are organized by public institutions, our carnival is organized by this group of volunteers who spend all year preparing the carnival and looking for help, looking for grants, which can represent only about 10% of the total budget. So this is a self-funded party. Another determining factor, both at an organizational and budgetary level, are the partners, as we call them, socies. We are around 1,000 socies, and we organize through assemblies. So this is the one picture of La Junta, okay, the bata of La Junta. Next. Another feature that characterizes us is the music. Made specially for the party and composed by a musician from the town, songs that sound every event thanks to Patil Panjas. One orchestra of musicians of all ages from town who make everyone dance non-stop. The carnival of Solsona lasts more than a week and consists of about 70 events. The central and most controversial act is the hanging of the donkey, which comes from a legend that the donkey was hung with the grass of the bell tower. Making fun of it during carnival, a cardboard donkey is hung from the bell tower and throws water to people pretending to pee on them. So that's why we, the Solsona people, are called the donkey killers. It's Matarux. In the year 2020, the 50th carnival was celebrated since its recovery. A carnival crazier and more emotional than ever, more so seen it in the distance, knowing that after 15 days we would all be confined.
more than 800 Samat is party of people, organized and done.
So, until here, everything was okay, but 1 year later, in the middle of COVID, to encourage people and to let them know that the decision of having carnival, La Junta, so them, decided to make this video in order to tell the people that we would not stop, that carnival was something very important to us, and carnival would be done. Just to let you know, it's in Catalan, but we just want you to feel like this sadness and at the same time encouragement. So. Okay, so when La Junta began preparing for 2021 Carnival, in September 2020, there was nothing clear about what we could do and what we could not do. We knew we would not be a carnival as we were used to, with crowds, gathering of friends, with comparsas and everything. There were different opinions within La Junta, some more optimistic than others. But what we all had clear was that the 51st Carnival had to exist. We could not cope with a year without Carnival after 50 years of celebrating it, and the difficulties after the recovery in 1971. Realizing that we wanted to celebrate it no matter what, we can break an omelette without UX. We started holding meetings to try to adapt all possible events to the situation. As always, we gathered among different event teams in order to share tasks. As there were no governmental regulations in relation to popular festivities, we could not follow any specific guidelines. We created a COVID team that was following the pandemic and the situations adopted by other similar projects day by day. Due to the changing situation, we decided to create 3 different carnival alternatives. Plan A, totally face-to-face format, with a wide space to be able to fulfill with the safety distance, with access control and capacity, so the usual space did not work for us. Plan B, semi-face-to-face format, where people that could not attend the event in person could follow it from home. And then Plan C, totally virtual, as the last option, in case the pandemic situation did not allow it to be different. Meeting to prepare Carnival was not easy at all, since we started the encounters in September and we finished in February 2021, when Carnival was about to start. The measures implemented by the government to deal with the COVID made many things change constantly. At times, they did not allow meetings of more than 6 people, and the members of La Junta were 17. The worst came with the implementation of a curfew at 10 p.m., which limited the meetings since we started at 8 p.m. for work reasons of the members. It should be borne in mind that it's very necessary to group, to organize joint activities, hold meetings, be together, so that we have a good work environment and good ideas. Because of the restrictions, the whole mood decreased, from face-to-face to 100% online meetings, being very unproductive and at all interactive. Later, when the restrictions loosened up a little, we could meet up to 6 members. Meanwhile, the remaining 11 were at home, like video calls. These meetings involve additional technical work that technical work so that everyone could follow the meeting in a good condition. As you may know, it's difficult to keep up conversations fluid via internet, and people aren't as focused as they should. Again, the government relaxed a bit, allowing us to meet all together, not in the usual spot, but in the Carnival workshop. It's larger, therefore we could keep the distance with the distance, the space and the distance. The danger though was real. Imagine one of us spreading COVID and the rest being confined for 10 days, especially the days before Carnival. The workshop was fine but cold, without heating in the middle of winter. It's not this winter, it's Catalan winter, but it's cold. This means loving our Carnival a lot. All these circumstances, adding the rest of uncertainties, when organizing Carnival did not help much. Here, as you can see, on the left, 4 months before Carnival, as usual, we met with sources to explain the structure of the new junta, because every year kind of changes, which had to be represented. I presented, but this meeting was in a larger space than usual. And on the other side, it's 2 months before Carnival, we held the second meeting to explain the format of Carnival 2021. This meeting, due to the restrictions imposed, could not be in person, was made 100% virtual. This was also new to us, as it had been never done before. We had to enable access through our website, so the members or socios could register, enter the meeting, and after our validation. All of it was managed by non-professional people who learn on the fly. In this meeting, we proposed the acts and the new formats. But, this is Catalonia, the region. After Christmas, in January, the pandemic worsened a lot, especially where we live. COVID-19 entered the nursery home and caused many deaths. This would mean, considering that it was just 1 month before Carnival, reconsidering everything. That's why we decided to schedule an emergency meeting with the sources again to assess what to do. It was held just 3 weeks before Carnival, and it was 100% online. In this meeting, we exposed what we had prepared and then asked the opinion of the sources. It should be noted that it has been one of the meetings with more assistance in the whole history of Carnival. All sources who wished had the opportunity to express their views. They didn't think that it was safe to celebrate it either face-to-face or fully virtual, as that would mean that the comparsas, the groups, would gather to see the virtual proposals anyway. All these opinions were written down and evaluated by La Junta after 2 days. This meeting was to decide which Carnival event would be executed.
One moment, please. Sources.
Sauces. S-O-C-I-S.
Sausages.
So each member of the junta in this new meeting with only the junta members could express also their opinion, and they had to make a decision. We could see that the desire, energy, and strength that we had in September had decreased. Finally, we decided to proceed with the celebration of the Carnival with Plan C, the last one. Totally online, except for some activities planned for children around the town, individual activities. And do the acts with most carnival essence. For example, we're going to show you some. Okay, the arrival of the King of Carnival, as we call it, Carnestoltes. We're going to send it to you. A video of it arriving through the main gate of the town was filmed, recreating the typical arrival where normally it takes place. So on the left you can see the typical one, and on the right the video that was filmed. Then the king's kidnapping. A video where the king was kidnapped after the arrival, named La Carne Barre, was a new performance never seen before. Here, the hanging of the donkey, what we were telling you before. On the left, you can see the typical one, obviously, and on the right, no. Instead of the crowd singing around the donkey on Saturday, the junta hang it at 7 in the morning without broadcasting or music, so people could not come and see. Exactly. Live inspirations. An online TV program similar to a late night show, where a group of young musicians from Solsona explain the origins of carnival music and different interviews with people strongly linked to the party and the music. This was also a new thing. Then Solsona Vojagen. This was a video from the dances of all the giants that normally dance around the squares and the streets, but this time was in a space without people, just a video that we had on YouTube, and you're going to see a little bit of it. Bravo. The sermon. A person who recited the sermon normally reads it from the stage. You cannot see it here very clearly, but normally this is full of people. In the middle of the main square of Solsona, but this time was from the theater, where we had a set of a streaming, so people could follow it live through the internet. Then contradances, as we call them, a professional dance couple performed the typical contradances dance. This is normally dance on Sunday, and les comparses, the people like get in groups and they dance it, but this time was this group of people. Figues, coca, irilan, figs, brioche, and white wine. These ingredients given to us while the traditional music is danced around the town, as you can see. In 2021, we're put in individual bags and distributed within the partner stores, so stores around the town who contribute with the carnival. Everyone could go there and get it for free. We also promoted the local commerce seriously affected by the pandemic. The Children's Carnival. A one-day carnival ended up being 9 activities for little ones. Solving riddles, making experiments, taking part in a costume dance, having fun with a clown show were some of the activities. And some event organizers from around Catalonia congratulated us so much, requesting the permission to use the show that we did, a streaming that we did, to share it around the country and to do it around. This children carnival was great success, since the children had so much fun. These are the main ones, but in the end, there were more than 20 videos broadcast through our website and social network, totally for free for everyone. Some of these videos were recorded by local producers with high quality, which increased the cost, but also the results. However, most of the technical, assembly, production, and editing was done by the members of La Junta, thus avoiding some expenses. Okay, this new giant is one of the latest events that we have celebrated during summer. This is the introduction of a pulp, it's an octopus. It's very interesting because it was created especially for people with disabilities, including wheelchairs, where wheelchair can fit inside. Since we have an association in town who was involved with the project in order to offer their users the opportunity to dance in a giant and be even more part of the celebration. Okay, we would like to finish with our perspective and judgment. The Carnival Association is a private entity. 85% of the funding is private thanks to sausage fee, the collaboration from local businesses, and the activities during Carnival to earn income. But this year, being completely virtual, much of this income didn't arrive. However, we had the support from the people and the rest of the income as usual, considering that the local businesses were not going through their best moments, they contribute. Thanks to this, we are able to close Carnival 2021 budget without losses. 1 month after Carnival, the review meeting with the saucies and everyone was held. Together with all the members, it was 100% virtual. All the saucies or members who attended congratulated us on this edition, thanked us, and we're very happy with the way we adopted option C to the traditional events. Our goal was not to lose the essence of the Carnival, and we achieved it. It also should be mentioned that after Carnival, no major outbreaks were recorded in the population. This means that most people behaved and respected the restrictions that existed at the time. We think that it also helped that most of the videos were issued in the evening once the curfew had started. That way, we kept gangs or comparses groups from coming together to watch the videos, which were very successful. So we can't wait to dance again under the donkey and have a normal carnival very soon. So let's see how the donkey is and dances and what happens.
Okay, Martin. Where is Martin?
I'm here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, sure. As we resuming. Sempre juntos.
Ele não disse nem a
Edu, che vogliono una foto per una cosa. Vina. Laura, vina. Because hanging like that is important. Proprio due Alessandro.
Senti ein Quer von Quer. One, two,
If you have any doubt, this person under this costume is the president of the junta. We can answer whatever if there's any question. If not, we're free to go. And thank you, Alessandro, for inviting us.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
As you can see, like my last sentence is, you are all invited to Solsoma's
I need the documentation for the project.
Now with the flags.
Any other request?
Okay.
Io ho fatto Sì, una michetta, però ne potete spiegare molto. 10 minuti.
Yes. Have the final discussion.
Final discussion.
Okay.
So it's 12:30. It's 12:30. My watch. So it's nearly time to have lunch. 12:30. I propose half an hour discussion before lunch. Yes, because when the president gave me back the clock, it was the other way around, and I realized it was 12:15, and now it's 12:30. So time is running, and well, thank you very much, everybody. So I think this is the right example for discussing multimodal anthropology.
Exactly.
I wanted to speak about this, but well, I was invited to speak about this this morning already by the organizers, about the interest of mixing the point of views of academics, of people organizing festivals, and also of practitioners, of actors, of people involved in the realization of festivals. So it's very good to have this possibility to discuss this multimodal anthropology. So multimodal anthropology is the idea of using new media to describe the society. And using new media can be films, as we have seen some films. And in the film we have seen, maybe the film was more efficient to describe the Basel Carnival Fastnacht than words and accepted academic writing. So this is the point. Music also, maybe being involved in the music, playing the music, singing, etc. This can also be a good way of describing things, maybe better than accepted academic writing. Photos in some cases, creative writings, cartoons, and why not wearing masks, working with museums, performing things, so experimenting what we want to describe. And this is really a great issue in social sciences today, after a long time being locked down in positivism. A lot of young scholars think that maybe it is a good thing to open our minds and open our skills to other sort of media working and creativeness. This is the idea to combine the point of view of the outsider and the point of view of the insider, and not to oppose them. Sociologist of science Bruno Latour in France speaks about hybrid forums, and obviously we have something like that here, a hybrid forum with a very serious part, academic part, and also funny events, and also people involved in what they are doing. So this is, I suppose this is a good example. We are a good example of a hybrid forum, of implication, of the implication of science in society, and of also the help of society for science. So maybe this is an experimentation of a more direct democracy, and the way of bringing together people from the field and people who are in the academia and reflecting on the field. So this is very nice. A lot of things that we have done this afternoon bring me also to the idea that context or the frame of what we do is important. The events, the things that we describe are a thing, but the context is also important. I think it is after having listening all these papers and all the presentations, it is a necessity for the rituals to be performed with their usual meanings in their context. And if the context changes, it is always dramatical, it is always difficult to adapt. This is okay we know this for the historical context, but also for today, for actual context. So I suppose that the discussion could go this way. Now it is 25 to 1. So I've spoken my 5 minutes, which was your turn, folks.
I would love to thank our Catalan crew. First of all, that they made the public double, which is great. That it's really full, not only of the confetti, but with your bodies and faces beautiful. And I really realize how important it is to have a real fool that reacts and who is present. I would say this is what we have to have on any other conference we organize in the future. I would like to have some kind of fool sitting with us and bringing this kind of interaction and this disturbing the speaker with his nice and everything. Yeah, but choose maybe, okay, choose.
Let me translate. So
yeah, okay, sorry.
So digo, guai, si que es un tiempo una salida de la presentación, es una mierda para la Exacto, como de it can be also a carnival thing in the budget, so they can come here for
perfect. Yes. Exactly.
I'm the man for money, but we talk.
Okay, we talk about the money later, right? So, but I think this is what Laura was talking about before. I think this is the best example of the connection, how the practitioners and the academics can co-work. So I would never have an idea like this, and now when I see that, I said I would like to have this every other time. So really, thank you. It was an amazing and it was great.
What it is. It's a present for you.
This is a present for me, so this is a present of Velvet Carnival that I found it a few years ago. And this is a badge that we make every year for our carnival in Prague. So thank you for giving me this. I really take it and appreciate it. I will have it on my heart.
Laurent, they say that without your interaction, like, it couldn't be the same thing. So we need people like you to be as fun as it was.
Exactly.
Kill the show.
No, it's no performance. Just sitting here preparing to conclude in a few minutes, I guess.
Mr. Testa, you've lost all your money. Look, all
Yeah,
the banknotes are on the
my
floor.
pockets had a hole and
Okay, if there are no questions, I have one more thing I would like to say to the presentation of Daniel in the beginning. Actually, everything began almost one year ago when I read in the newspapers. A friend of mine wrote me about this, what they did, and she sent me a link to some media article. And I have seen a short video of this Santa Lucia talk. And I didn't know anything about Santa Lucia, about the symbolic of this dark night, nothing about bringing or passing to the others. But just to see the few seconds of this video, it was so strong for me. So I said, oh, wow, this is amazing, somehow something worked there. So I wrote to the journalist and she gave me the contact to Daniel. And now when Daniel was talking about the whole context, now I understand why it was so strong for me. But I just think that if the symbol and if the ritual you create has this importance, it's so strong and has this meaning without you knowing everything about this. It shows how great it was done and how the ritual or how this festival or how this performance can actually work without knowing. So I just wanted to say that it was so beautiful done that without knowing the context, it was so strong. So, and thank you now for the whole context you gave us, because for me it is really a great example how creative you can cope with the context and with there are some traditional moments, but with the reaction of the situation. Thank you.
And please, next time, bring the scooters.
They are here in Prague everywhere, so.
also Daniel's. It's very hard to shift from what we just did. Oh, that's so fun! So thank you. That was wonderful. But I've been thinking a lot about your presentation, about what you said of sound. And, you know, with the Burning Man example that I gave, sound was something that people felt was enhanced in the virtual setting. And yet when I listened to what you said about the vocal cords and then the reception, it's a touching. And it has to be physically, you know, it can't be done through the computer. And it really made me think about the question of what was lost. And touch is so important in so many of the examples that we saw today. And that seems to be really lost. I mean, in your examples, the dancing together, and certainly for the singing. And I guess, you know, it's just something I'm curious about in many of your projects. If people that you spoke with, did they talk about the loss of touch as much as some of the folks that I interviewed? I don't know, but thinking of the song and the hearing as a kind of touching in a way.
Yes, I can say something about it. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people, and during all the lockdown, with a lot of musicians, live, and performers. And it was at one point we do big things. It was more important at one point to do even one performance than do all these virtual matters. We knew we had to go through this. But the quickest to do a balcony music, it was already kind of a relief. And to have even one audience was better, more rewarding for the performer, the musician, or for the audience, than all this virtual, I don't know, pixel stuff. And now that things are again possible, the explosion, there is in Flemish a fantastic word that's called knaldrang. That means the urge to explode. Knaldrang, it's the same. So this urge to explode, we felt it the moment you could again perform in open air or with a real audience. This was so amazing, and for the musicians and for the audience, the relief, the essential thing that is happening there. You can never, I think, replace it through.
It makes the same experience.
Yeah. Or it becomes a museum. It's fine. It's interesting, but it's something completely different. Yeah.
How does that apply to weddings? Weddings involve touch a lot. Haptic sense is also involved. So how did that work? How did couples?
The methods with you touching.
With a kiss.
In Hungary there are no regulation about the touching. So touching yourself, balance around, so it was possible.
With your small group.
Yeah. Just one thing. Did you have virtual participation? Did you see this? Stream, a lot of stream. Yeah, just very interesting. It's but more than that. So, yeah.
Actually, it would be interesting to know who refused and who accepted to play the COVID game in a way. I was interested by your colleague Jana categorization of preservation, opposition, or adaptation, and who adapted? Who were the people who, sociologically, I mean, who were the people who accepted to adapt and who did not? This is intriguing for me, and this would be interesting to deepen, to look at.
And the question of class, especially, wasn't much discussed today. But
In South of France carnivals, some people refused really radically to go online and preferred to do little things at their homes. So it was another logic, and same in the summer festivals. Some said, well, we would not replace as the Basel people did, as I understood. They wouldn't do that. They said we prefer
not doing it,
cancelling the event and maybe doing happenings little happenings in the street of the village without advertising anything. I was in a few events like that, and the interesting point was that there was a sense of belonging to this little community, which was very strong. The people believing that they were doing something very important to them.
But that is answering to your basic question, why you do something, what is the essential of what you are doing. And you can always find a replacement or a kind of translation for the moment, but it will never replace the basic question why you do something and why these things are happening in the profoundly.
We don't need to discuss for 30 minutes.
So before we conclude and wrap up the entire day, I would like to have a special applause for our regisseur and director of photography.
Yes.
Throughout the day.
I would like to see a market. If you might help me, it would be great.
Okay, together. Yeah. So just, a couple of words. I would also like to thank you all for participating in this beautiful first day. I don't know how many of you will also be there tomorrow. For example, I know that our Catalan friends will not be there tomorrow, unfortunately. So thank you again.
But they will be in the evening.
Of course, tonight we are all invited to our buffet, which will take place in a nearby cafe and immediately after the end of the works here. And so just would like to, I think there is really no need to wrap up the entire conference because we might do that tomorrow, maybe better. So thank you again. And
Right. Right. Now we just have to organize the transportation. I don't know, maybe somebody wants to go to the hotel and then come to it should start at 7. So
But you can, I would say we can start between 7 and 7:30. So it's a buffet.
Right.
So
but they don't have the address, right? So,
yes.
It's 5 minutes from
it's
here.
a buffet, so you should find the buffet. It's in Prague, right?
Okay. So we will give you the address. Okay, now I'm completely. I didn't think about this, so now I'm wrong.
You know, it's first of all, it's really like 5 minutes from here, so that we are scaring them, I think.
No, we're not. But if people go to the hotel right now.
Yeah, but then I mean, from
maybe what about meeting in front of the hotel?
I guess.
At 7 o'clock, right? 7 o'clock in front of the hotel. Is it fine for you?
Is everyone staying at the same hotel actually?
Which hotel?
And the Catalans will go. Is there any other category than Catalans and those who stay in the hotel? Or and for the others, it's Café Neustadt in the new town hall. Or so if anyone does not know to which category he or she belongs or where it is,